By the rivers of Babylon, yeah, we sat down and we cried when we remembered Jerusalem. We were sick, Lord, near to dying. By the
Shalom, shalom, family. Welcome to another Tanakh review. My name is Zurishaddai, one of the teachers of Congregation BINAH CHOKMAH, BINAH, located in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn. Giving glory and honor to the Most High King of the universe, Yehudah, for allowing us all to be here once again. Thanking the Creator for life, food, clothing, and shelter, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. I'm grateful to this mighty King for my life and the life of Kobe Yisrael scattered in the four corners of the earth. Giving glory to the mighty King and thanking him because his mercy endures forever on all of us. So we're back once again. Last week I was in Panama, Central America, going to visit with family, with father, everyone else. And I had a great time with the family and thanking the Most High God for my safe arrival and my safe return. So I'm grateful to the Creator for always watching over me and protecting me and being with us, Israel, wherever we might be scattered. So we're going to get right into it. Early Shabbat Shalom, or Shabbat Shalom to everyone. And I pray that the Creator has granted you the endeavors of your mind and that the Most High God has blessed each and every one of you. Also giving due respect to the leader of our congregation, even my brother, Chief Prince Jeriel Ben Saskar, praying that the Creator of heaven and earth will continue to be with him, his family, his household, continue to be with his wife, Princess Shekinah, and that the Most High God will bless them. Praying that the Most High God will bring health to all of us, prosperity, and a blessing. Hallelujah. So without any further ado, I'm going to pass it over to one of my teachers and one of my mentors, even Nasik Zurishaddai Ben Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
Great, Baruch Hashem. Like I said, the host was visiting, had a long needed vacation. So I'm glad to see them back in the family enjoying themselves. But first of all, I'd like to give praise to the Supreme Eternal Universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Due respect to the platform I'm on, which is a D.C.B. channel platform. Spiritual leader, Chief Prince Yeriel Ben Saskar, the host, Chief Uzael, to the princes, chiefs, rabbinate, Kohanim, Morim, brothers and sisters and visitors. I greet you all in the tongue of my forefathers. Shalom Aleichem and an early Shabbat Shalom. I know normally we're scheduled to do Proverbs. This week I'm doing 4 and 5. I won't be elaborating as much again because there's so much in the sidros that I didn't get a chance to touch on, though I spoke on them in past times in passing, which was Wayera and Kayesera. So I'm going to do something a little different, so I ask you to tolerate me. And then before I start, I'm going to say, I did not accept Taji Takufi Yakichi Lateka, O Lord, I'm down my lips, and mouth should declare that praise. So I'm going to be covering those two sidras and also reading Proverbs 4 and Proverbs 5. So in light of the first sidra, Wa'era, which is translated, and he appeared, which means in this case, the Creator appeared. But as we left off from the previous sidra, the previous sidra with Abraham, with Lech Lekah, we found out that a lot of things transpired in Lech Lekah. So, but in the end of the sidra Lech Lekah, I just want to start from the 15th verse. All right. And God said to Abraham, as for Sarah thy wife, Sarai, Abraham, Sarai thy wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarai, but Sarah. So both of them had a name change. He had a name change in there from Abram to Sarah, Abraham, and his wife's name was changed from Sarai to Sarah. And you notice it says, thou shalt not call her Sarai, which has a tension of a sense of a contention in there in itself. But that's what the Creator told Abraham. So I know your name. So when a lot of times when brothers and sisters, and I just want to bring that out. Sometimes some of us just grow up in the diaspora and we come into knowledge ourselves as Hebrew Israelites. And even if those go to an Islamic background, come to an Islamic awareness. When you change your name and you say, this is my name from now on, some people insist of disrespecting you and calling you out of the name you say, I'd rather be known as. All right. So the thing is that, and I like to be called as under that name, but the Creator makes it very clear in this point in time, you can't call her that, more, and now with Abraham, it's just, it's a little bit more passive, but with his wife, Sarah, he's saying, no, do not. That's a negative command, a prohibition, negative prohibition. Don't call her Sarai anymore. You call her Sarah. So it's a sign of respect that the Creator awarded the first matriarch out the three, out the four matriarchs that's mentioned. So then it said, and I will bless her, and moreover, I will give thee a son of her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. King of the people shall be of her. Then Abraham fell upon his face and laughed and said in his heart, shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, that is 90 years old, bear? So what puzzling in that last portion was that he made a statement earlier concerning his age. Yet he just had a son 13 years ago. Ishmael's about 13 when he gets circumcised. As we find out in this portion, and that wasn't a question then whether he could produce or not. It wasn't even a question about Sarah at that time whether he could produce or not. So, one, those are some of the things you say. Well, why would he question that when he just had a son 13 years ago? So why would that be an issue? But through his wife Sarah, and you read what God said. Okay, you take this handmaid, make sons with her because Sarah's not producing right. So those are some things that that bears a lot of discussion in those areas there. All right, and then just to save time, you find out that Abraham himself. We got this covenant now, the covenant that he posted to do. It says in the 19th verse. Let me go. When he pleads for Ishmael, I want to make sure I bring that out. He pleads for Ishmael, and it says in the 17th verse says, then Abraham fell upon his face and laughed and said in his heart, shall a child be born to him that is 100 years old, and shall Sarah that is 90 years old bear? And Abraham said unto God, oh, that Ishmael might live before thee. Now, what do you mean? Did God say I'm going to slay Ishmael? Or do he mean that should Ishmael, still keep hold to the laws and covenant that Abraham had taught him? Those are some of the questions there, And in the 20th verse it says, I might as well make this clear and finish it out. And God said, nay, but Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son, and thou shalt call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant for his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard thee. Behold, I have blessed him and will make him fruitful and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac. That's scriptures there. So it's you know, a lot of times, even though people who say Ishmael's the oldest, supposed to get this in double portion, but the firstborn get a double portion of all property rights, tangible things, not necessarily the spiritual side, and which I said earlier. So, and then it goes on to say later on that we're going to skip down this before I'm going to finish out this last part because it brings out some points I want to bring out. And Abraham took his son and all that was born in his household and all that was brought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin in the self-same day. All right, because earlier it talked about the covenant of circumcision. All right, that all the seeds supposed to be, you know, circumcised. All right, throughout the generations. All right, so we find here that we had the covenant of circumcision. And in 12th verse in that same chapter, it says, and he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every male throughout your generations. You know, so Abraham, all this took place after the order of the institution of circumcision in the 17th chapter. So Abraham circumcised there, and he circumcised his household. Now, we get into YAH, 18th chapter. And the Lord appeared unto him by the terebinths of Mamre, as he sat in the tent door, you know, it said, in the heat of the day. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood over against him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door and bowed down to the earth and said, my Lord, if now I have found favor in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. People make a distinction in that particular verse. You know, is he talking to the men or are he talking to God? It said the Lord appeared before him, you know, and that's how the Sidra open up where the Lord appeared to Abraham, you know, and then and it talks about, you know, by the terebinths of Mamre, you know, some look at it, you know, some of my books might say the plains, but actually the terebinths is actually like the oak tree alone, which is an oak and an oak tree, and it's unique about the oak tree because one of the properties of an oak tree, though we don't consider it as a tree that bears fruit, oak have acorns, and there's a lot of symbolism behind that, you know, but I just want to just bring out a couple of things which I spoke on in the past. Oak tree produces acorns, and you know, a lot of times when they have these fires out there in California and whatnot, that the acorns of the oak tree has a certain type of oil in it that kind of make it stand fire a lot more better than any other seed. The resident, that's why I know oak trees, and ain't too many people really plant oak trees. But the oak tree itself, because of the acorns that it produce and the kind of oil that be within the acorns, that it has a fire retardant. Could it be, you know, is this relationship with the Creator appearing there, you know, before Abraham? Is that in relationship to some of the legends that they talk about on his way up to learn, you know, and be called by the Creator? And speaking of this monotheistic one God that actually lives, that has no form. So those are some things you could discuss. Why he appeared in oak tree. Usually we just see where God appeared before so-and-so, not necessarily in some kind of object. So why it chose that particular object, that's something, you know, to consider and think. And then out of all the appearances that you read about in the you know, when the Creator appeared, this is the only time you find in scripture, there's no message right there. And then Look where he's at. He's over there in the neighborhood of Mamre. Mamre is one of his confederates. We read just in a chapter before that he just had, the sidra before that he just had, beat down 4 kings and rescued his nephew Lot. So, and that his confederates one of them was Mamre. The confederates that went with him to go and rescue Lot against those 4 kings. So now, if he just got circumcised there, and it's in the heat of the day. It's really blazing hot out there. It's high noon, so Haraim, between the days and the noons, that we know automatically that not too many people should be traveling along on the roadside, because most people say it was too hot to travel. We're just going to cool out for a moment and then make a move. So now when we look at that area, you guys say, okay, what's going on here? And some of the questions you might want to ask: why he took this location? Then I like to bring out this here to further have you consider and think, and question even further amongst your teachers and stuff, and each other, that if it makes sense, if I just beat down 4 kings, rescue the people of the 5 cities, Sodom and Gomorrah, Abner, Zeboam, and Zor, or Bela at the time, and that was called at that time. And now I'm commanded by the Creator to circumcise myself, and I circumcise not only me, I'm commanded to circumcise all the people in my household and anybody I buy with money. So how fit can I be when we read, a few hundred, a few generations later, that Shimon and Levi had wind up attacking a city of Shechem when everybody was sore on the 3rd day? Do you think Abraham went there by Mamre? Do you think he ever told them, said, look, my God told me to, this is what I got to do. I'm gonna hang out here, but I can't rumble with you like you rumble with me? Because they went with him. But if they had repercussions from the descendants of those 4 kings, could Abraham himself actually go out there and say, look, me and my servants, we're going back out on the battlefield because you came out with me? Could it be reciprocal? So it was seen to be reasonable, but you could discuss it amongst your leaders and teachers, that the guys that helped me, and it's just a short moment after I done beat up some 4 kings, that if they have a problem of repercussion, they have a problem with repercussion, because our God was told Abraham, have no fear. So he don't have a fear of them coming back to attack him. But could he ever render the aid to the ones that helped them in his situation? So it makes sense. But you can discuss it further. Like I said, just some of the things I'm bringing out to discuss, that I can't help you like you help me if you got in a situation right now, because this is my condition. All right, I'm trying to heal up. And yet he's moving like he's a young man to be a host, and a host. And we know right then that he actually hosts these guys. We find out later on as angels, but they refer to as men. And he talk about that, you have, and there's a couple of things that's missing here. Though he told Sarah to knead dough, and make bread. When we get to the table, like I brought out before, you find out that they had, a curd, milk. They had the beef, but they had no bread. Their bread is not mentioned there. It was Sarah's job to present the bread. They even asked for her, as the host of the place. So what happens then? Could it be that just as soon as they spoke, that she went through a cycle, a woman's cycle of a young lady that's becoming mature? Those are some of the things you could think about and consider. Hence why, since it was her job to prepare certain things firsthand, that she couldn't prepare because whatever the cycle be, being she's going to have to go through a physical change now. All right. So now I'm gonna fast forward and just bring out some more stuff before we go forward into this area. I like to bring out points about. All right. So now we know that he's in this spot, and the guys told him about his son. His son gonna be Isaac. So Isaac is named before he's even born. But in the 16th verse of that same chapter, it said, the men rose up from thence and looked towards Sodom, and Abraham went with them to bring them on the way. So he did an escort. One of the things I like to say, because Abraham's known for hospitality, and I was discussing with people prior in between time that it's a difference between charity and hospitality. And I like to make that distinction as I'm going through, because a lot of people think charity and hospitality is the same. And it's not. It's very different. See, charity today, modern terms it uses, for charity, the modern term, semantical term for charity is tzedakah. But actually, tzedakah is it's like justice. What is just? You are obligated by the Creator to extend charity to somebody in need. You're obligated to do that. But you're never obligated throughout the Tanakh to extend hospitality. Hospitality is never a need for the individual you're hosting. It is never a need. Charity is always a need. Hence, you're commanded to give charity, but nowhere in Tanakh you're commanded to give hospitality. So that's just something to think about. So, very few things you're not commanded, but giving hospitality, is laudable. And I'm not saying it's not you're not supposed to do it. Maybe I should rephrase that. I'm not saying that, you're not allowed to do it. You're allowed to give hospitality because that's giving of yourself. You're never commanded to forgive somebody, but in the Tanakh, in the New Testament, yes, but not in Tanakh. But to forgive alleviates not only the individual, but also alleviates you. So it's helpful, but you're not commanded by the Creator to do that. So I figure I want to bring and stress those 2 points there. Hospitality is never commanded. Charity is always commanded. All right. So we're going to move on just a little bit and just get into the part where the Creator has said that, and the Lord said from the 20th verse. Oh no, let me go back further, just a minute, because it's just a point I need to make. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and say, in the beginning of the 17th verse, and the Lord said, "Shall I hide from Abraham that which I am doing, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him? For I have known him to the end, that he may command his children and his household after him, that they may keep the ways of the Lord, to do righteousness and justice, to the end that the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he has spoken of him." All right, now before we get to the 20th verse in a little bit, I just want to bring out a couple of points in that area. Abraham gets circumcised at 99. His servants got circumcised the same day. Ishmael is 13 years old. But yet the covenant, they say, and the parameters is that everybody that's born 8 days old. So now, question to be discussed amongst your teachers. How is it that Abraham kept all the commandments of God? Then how come he wasn't circumcised earlier? And if you say he didn't know what circumcision was, we don't read where God had to teach him what circumcision was. Other different practices, that the practice existed prior to Abraham's time. So why didn't Abraham not do that? And then you have a thing where, do I keep a command because God commanded me? Or I do certain things in life because I know it to be godly? That's the operative question. Do I do the commands of God simply because the Creator commanded me that? Or I naturally would do what is godly? So those are some of the questions to ask yourselves as we wonder why it took Abraham 99 years old to be circumcised if he kept all the commandments of the Creator, and that become a commandment. And if he kept the commandments of God, we know what's written. So what laws did he keep prior to what was written? So those are some of the operative questions to discuss. And then if the command, the technicalities of circumcision, the Brit Milah is actually, when a male be 8 days old. Now, if a child is sick, you might do it, you wait till he's healed. But 8 days old, that means even if it came on a Shabbat, you would do it on a Shabbat. But if you had to delay it, then when the child is healed, you cannot do it on a Shabbat. So why then would the parameters and particulars, and why wouldn't Abraham even question that? And then when he circumcised himself, if he knew circumcision was important and he knew about the commandments in his heart, if he knew it to be, in his heart, then, because it didn't say it was going to be a new type of covenant for Abraham. So then, why? Was he waiting for the Creator to command him to do it so that he get the benefit thereof? Or if he did it ahead of time, would have been a benefit? Is it more taxing? At 8 days old, that means you depend on your parents to do it, because a child 8 days old cannot circumcise himself. But yet, this is a covenant that's imposed upon the people, but it's a covenant that you coming unto. So imagine that. An 8-day-old baby cannot circumcise himself, but yet it's incumbent upon the parents or some guardian to circumcise that 8-day-old male. And then why the women are not circumcised? So these are some of the questions that bring up. Are they not part of the covenant, or are they part of the covenant? So these are some of the questions that you would bring about. And then being circumcised on the 8th day, which is Isaac is the first one we know later on is circumcised on the 8th day. Why are we coming into the covenant of Abraham instead of the covenant of Isaac when he's fulfilling the covenant of circumcision? So those are some of the questions that you could discuss as we go forward. I'm just going to skip on through, and the 20th verse. And I know it could be kind of long. That's why I say I'm going to speed through the Proverbs, but I want to bring out some points here. And there was so much stories in here. One of the areas I'd like to look at is that in the 20th verse, and the Lord said, verily, the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and verily, their sin is exceedingly grievous. I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is come to me. And if not, I will know. And the men turned from thence and went towards Sodom. But Abraham stood yet before the Lord. All right. This little verse is here to say, well, what's going on? Is the Lord in part of one of the angels, or the Lord is still the one that appeared before him in the oak tree, a Mamre? These are questions to bring back. All right. I'm going to leave that for y'all to discuss. And So now, do the Creator need any new information? No, he don't. So why state that he need to come down? If he heard it, then if he's God, what new information he need to get? Being the Creator could be anywhere he want to be. He know the end of a thing before it exists. So what new information he need to get? But he's saying this to Abraham. All right. All right. And the men turned from thence and went toward Sodom. But Abram stood yet before the Lord, and Abram drew near and said, wilt thou indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Peradventure there are 50 righteous within the city. Wilt thou indeed sweep away and not forgive the place for the 50 righteous that are therein? That be far from thee to do after this manner, to slay the righteous with the wicked, so that the righteous should be as the wicked. That be far from thee. Shall not the judge of all the earth do justly? All right, so now, we all read what the Creator said to come down. He heard about it already, but he came down. Is the Creator eyesight is short range? You know, is he nearsighted, or or something wrong with his eyes? Well, so this is some of the things we got to look at when we deal with this particular portion, because this reflects later on when we get into Kaye Sarah. And one of the things that we look at is this: you called the Creator the judge of the whole earth, and you said you pleading for the righteous that's there. Pleading for the righteous is there, and saying, well, saying that you would say the city for those righteous individuals that's there. And you talk about 50. So now, if we talk about 50 at that time, and he already said, as far be it for you to do it. No, you can't do that. Since when do you tell the Creator what he cannot do? Those are some of the things to think about. But we're gonna move past that, because I don't want to spend that long, and then because a lot of y'all heard it, it's a couple weeks behind. So he went down to 10. So 10 righteous people, the Creator said, I will spare the place for the 10 righteous. What we have here in this particular portion is that the 10 righteous individuals, that's only 2 people per city. Since it's 5 cities: Sodom, Gomorrah, Adnah, Zeboim, and Bela, which is later changed the name Zor. 5 cities. That means 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. That's 10 people. All right. So hence, that's where you stop at. This is they make a thing about the minions of 10, but they deal with the minion in the next portion, but basically stopped at 10. All right. So, and then Abraham left off speaking. Then we know what happened when Sodom and the men got there. Lot was there, and he offered them hospitality. It wasn't the same, but they say he made them a feast. The word kog and matzah, the first time the word matzah is used is in the area when a lot offered the angels. And they call angels here, but they're not called angels in the time of Abraham, when Abraham meet them, the same individuals. All right. We know that the Lot tried to protect them, the angels, but he wound up needing protection. So pretty much the storyline. We know that Lot, the angels had to save Lot when Lot trying to save the angels. We know all that about that. We know Lot offered his daughter to the men, and most people get the thing that Sodom and Gomorrah, when they think about Sodom and Gomorrah, they just think of the homosexuality. But it's all manner of wickedness, of violence that they did. It wasn't just a sexual act, because other nations still was doing strange sexual perverted acts. So they wasn't destroyed for these strange perverted acts. Centuries later, we read that the strange perverted acts that the Egyptians did, the strange perverted acts in the land of Canaan where we was going at, That still was going on. The people wasn't destroyed for the sexual perverted acts. So when people say it's sodomy and this and that and the other, that's that's one act, and that was that the people of this time had done, but it wasn't the only thing that caused them to be wiped out, by the Creator. So when we go on and go further, it says we know automatically that Lot had to be offered his daughters. When you offer your daughters up to save somebody else, do you really care about your daughters? Because usually a daughter is very close to their father, very close to their father. So when you offer your daughters up to save some strange individuals that come into your house, what did I say? We see a situation like that centuries later in the book of Judges, but that's another story that will be spoken on perhaps in another time, another setting. But Lot came there, and he got promoted in a sense. Not only he was a nomad, he was a shepherd. Shepherds is always on the move. He dwelt in tents. Abraham still dwelling in tents, but Lot got a house now. We don't read where Abraham had a house, but Lot has a house. Matter of fact, the first patriarch we read about that actually had a house, so to speak, is Yaakov. Nobody else really had a house of the patriarchs. But we're going to move on just a little bit, and I'm going to try to speed it up just a little bit more. We know Sodom was destroyed. We know that Lot's daughters thought the whole world was destroyed because they ain't too far from the time of the Malbush, the flood of Noah's period of time. We know that they thought they was doing something laudable. They said, look here, our father's old. We are only two daughters. They think they're going to repopulate the world. So they get him drunk. They get him to do that. And he said, well, if he's for it, why get him drunk? If it's really laudable, why get him drunk? And there's no written law saying they couldn't at that time. And so since there's no written law stating that, then we're looking at it from laws given now as opposed to laws that's actually written out given back then. So why was the need to get him drunk to do that? And how would his performance be in that kind of stupor? So was it about a pleasure seeking, or was it about really, I'm thinking I'm trying to do something to replenish the earth? And the next one, the oldest one, said, look, this is what I did. You need to do that too. So now, if you thought you're the last ones and you have a son, you name him after your father, Moab, from my father. The other one, the younger daughter, same the son, Ami, Ben-Ami, son of my people. We know Ruth come from the line of Moabite, and we know later on, but that's another story. But what is interesting is if you had those two sons and you thought y'all the only ones left in the world, then do that mean that you're going to get some daughters? I'll keep going with your father until you get some daughters, or you're going to go with your sons until you get some daughters? Because they got to have somebody in there to try to repopulate the world. So those are some of the things that you need to, consider in this, in their movement, saying we're the last ones on earth. So we're the last one. Where Adam just had his wife, and Eve just had Adam. But the sons, he had sons and daughters. How soon he had the daughters? How soon he had, as far as the sons? How far apart? How often? Or was that same type of lifestyle going on? We know Imakawa was never defiled. It would be exemplary for us, the mother of all mankind, all living. And so, therefore, this brings out provokes a lot of thought And that if you was trying to repopulate the world, you only had one son. Or was it a son and a daughter born with him? You know, when he had twins, a male and female. We don't know. All we say is see two sons here. So hence, if it was just two sons and we take it literal, then what happens beyond that? What is the relationship? And then did Lot stop dealing with his daughters from that point on, since his wife turned to a pillar of salt? You know, those are all the questions that, you know, can arise from that. We will go into the 20th, before we go into that, and just bear with me a little bit. I said this would be a little longer. We deal with the 20th chapter of Genesis. All right. Abraham, you know, Abraham's said to Sarah in the second verse. All right. She is my, said to Sarah, and Abraham said of Sarah, his wife, she is my sister, and Abimelech, the king of Gerar, sent and took Sarah. But God came to Abimelech in a dream of the night. And he said to him, behold, thou shalt die because of the woman whom thou hast taken, for she is a man's wife. Now Abimelech had not come near her, and he said, Lord, wilt thou slay even a righteous nation? So, did he learn that from Abraham? That last word. What did he slay even a righteous nation? Did he learn something like that? And then what would make Abimelech righteous? When it said the iniquities of the Amorites are not yet fulfilled and everything like that, and that land that he's sitting on going to be our land eventually. So, and Abraham is friends with him. But yet Abraham, you know, deceives him. And it goes on to say, said he not himself unto me, she is my sister, and she even herself said, he is my brother. In the simplicity of my heart and the innocence of my hands have I done this. And the Lord said unto him in the dream, yea, I know that in the simplicity of thy heart thou hast done this, and I also withheld thee from sinning against me. So, question. If your wife ever committed adultery, you know what I mean, do you have the actual authority to forgive her? And she's good with God? That's the question. Based on this verse here, God said, I kept you from sinning against me. Now, when Abimelech asked, is a righteous nation, you know, when you slay, you know, a righteous nation, if he considered himself guilty, is he saying, all right, I'm the one that's guilty, but my people is not have no parts of this. So if you slay me, you know, how are my people going to feel? Because I'm basically a good guy. You know, and so it brings a lot of different stories here and viewpoints that you can bring out. And that's why sometimes judgment is not that easily attained. True justice is not that easily attained, simply because we got bringing out certain scenarios just in these here patriarchal portions of the book with a guy named Abimelech. And then, by the way, Abimelech is the first guy to have a dream that we read about. A dream. Nobody else was mentioned they had a dream. Not that they didn't, but the first mention of a dream is mentioned right here in this particular portion. All right. So before Abraham had a dream, read about that. All right. So and then we go further. We're gonna skip on by. You know, we know he restored and everything like that. But she ain't no youngster at this time when this happened. And he did the investigation. Abimelech did the investigation, whereas the king of Egypt didn't do any investigation. He did the investigation. And the king of Egypt, in that first episode, you read Abraham having, having us, say that she's a sister. But we don't find that question even come up. Something says that she's my sister, whereas Abimelech actually checked on both sides. He said, look, I can't believe you got a woman this fine and she's not a servant, and she, you didn't marry and everything like that, because that's back then it wouldn't have been a prohibition. But certain people had certain godly laws that's instilled within them before written laws came about. So he was like, oh, okay, it must be cool like that. They chummy like that. Because usually when a man can't have no female friends, just like a woman can't have no male friends, unless that is their brother or that is their sister. That's the only friend you're going to have until you get married. And then you can say, my spouse is my best friend. But prior to that, the first female friend a man would have would be his biological sister. That's a real female friend. Other than that, the next female friend he will be morally be able to have would be his spouse. That's it. Your mother is never your friend. Your aunt is never your friend. Your blood sister would be your friend. And after that, your spouse could be possibly not just your spouse, but she should be your friend. All right, so I just said that and going, but you can always talk it over with your different leaders and teachers about those issues there. I'm just running on a little bit fast in this area here. All right. We know Isaac is born, he's circumcised and everything on 8 days and stuff like that there. And we know automatically that it said in the 21st chapter, we're still in that's why I said there was so much stuff here, that and the child grew and was and the child grew and was weaned, talking about Isaac. And Abraham made a great feast on the day that Isaac was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had born unto Abraham, making sport. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac. And the thing was grievous in Abraham's sight on account of his son. He didn't have that strong love for the Hagar. He loved his wife, but he loved his son too, that he had basically, for 17 years. He had this guy here, and then in the 12th verse says, and God said unto Abraham, let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad and because of thy bondswoman, because now what he do to the son going to affect the son relationship with him and his mother. And all that Sarah said unto thee, hearken unto her voice. For in Isaac shall seed be called to thee. All right. In the 14th verse, it said, and Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and a bottle of water and gave it unto Hagar, putting it on her shoulder and the child, and sent her away. And she departed and strayed in the wilderness of Beersheba. Okay. Now, I want you to pay close attention to that verse. And it says, and Abraham rose up early in the morning and took bread and a bottle of water and gave it unto Hagar, putting it on her shoulder and the child, and sent her away. He could never really wipe the son off, away from his heart. Never. It's her he could get along without. He could move on from that. But the son is his blood. She is not his blood. The son is him. So it was easy to send her away. But the way he sent it, the Creator said, listen to the voice, and the words was kind of harsh. And he sent them off like vagabonds, like slaves. Bread, water. Now you got to ask yourself, and I'm not going to spend much time on this here, but it was just so much stuff that I just wanted to focus on, bring some things to the forefront, is how is it that a man that hosted 3 individuals while he's trying to heal, if we think of any chronological order, while he's healing, leave the presence of the Creator to host somebody, and then come back to the presence of the Creator? Which brings another story. When is it okay to, stop to do something for somebody, so here it is that he not only was in the process of being healed at the hottest part of the day, but he rushing to fix some beef, give him some curd, making a feast for him, and we're having them wash their feet and stuff like that and dwell under the shade. Under the shade. So I want you comfortable while we get things prepared. And he stood by. So if he did all that for somebody to just show up, which we find a whole lot of things, because they left and he ran towards them, which is another thing. But we can't cover everything in a particular sidra. But he did that, and yet he's gonna send somebody that's hard to get out of his heart with his mother, with just bread and water. She got her luggage of bread and water. He got his luggage of bread and water. I'm not even going to give you a donkey. I'm not going to give you one servant. I'm sending you away on foot. That's kind of hard. But we're going to move on past that. All right, so we know later on, we're talking about the covenant. I'm skipping to the next thing here. In the 22nd chapter, the Akedah, which is very important before we get into Kaya Sarah. It said that and it came to pass after these things that God did prove Abraham and said unto him, Abraham, and he said, Here am I. And he said, Take now thy son, thy only son, whom thou lovest, even Isaac, and get thee unto the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains, which I will tell thee of. All right. He got the general direction where he need to go. In the land of Moriah. All right. But he didn't get the exact spot. Seemed like his journey started off with not knowing the exact spot, just a general direction. And Abraham rose up early in the morning and saddled his ass and took 2 of his young men with him and Isaac, his son, and he cleaved the wood for the burnt offering and rose up and went unto the place of which God had told him. On the 3rd day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place afar off. Abraham said unto his young men, Abide ye here with the ass, and I and the lad will go yonder, and we will worship and come back to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering, and he laid it upon Isaac, his son, and he took in his hand the fire and the knife, and they went, both of them together. So now, he got the lighter thing. He's actually physical burden. He carrying a torch of fire, and he got a knife. All that heavy lumber, and it's going to be a sizable amount of lumber. He got that on top of Isaac. Now, questions. Did he not think that he would find lumber where he was going and up on the mountain? Or he had to make sure the wood is not infested with all kind of maggots and stuff like that? Because usually when the priests have later on, and we know later on that the wood had to be inspected if you're going to use it for the offering. Couldn't have all kind of bugs and stuff in the wood. So, but that's another story. I just want to bring out some of these points as I'm pushing through here. one of the things you got to look at in this area too, in this episode, is that he rose up early in the morning. Do you think he would say, God, did I hear you right? Do you think, that he would discuss things with his wife when he asked her to do an act of kindness to save his life so it could be well with her? Then why get up early in the morning? You got up early in the morning, to do God's will, or you got early in the morning, so I don't have to think about it too much overnight. This is his test, not Isaac's test, but his test. If I got to do something I'm kind of iffy, I'm going to plead for people, I'm worried about people, and I'm a people's person, in spite of myself, in spite of my own safety, then I don't have a plead there. I don't have a cry out there. And I'm not, and it showed that how much I love Isaac, because, and he loved Ishmael. So now all these questions let you know that this is a human being and not a superficial human being. And they walk off and they go up to this area here. And when they go to this particular area, we know automatically that the question come up, we got the wood, we got the fire, but where's the lamb? All right, so we know that question comes up. So Isaac knew what the sacrifice should entail. And he left the other two people behind. Why leave them behind? He didn't want them to witness what he's about to do. His human sacrifices that strange, especially in ancient times. Or it was appalled by a lot of people. So those things I'm gonna leave there and move on to the Sarah. All right, we know that automatically God told him to save Isaac, and I'm just gonna read that part. We're going to Sarah. All right, it says, and the angel of 11 verse, 22nd verse, chapter 11 verse, and the angel of the Lord called unto him out of heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham, and he said, here am I. And he said, lay not thy hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him. For now I know that thou art a God-fearing man, seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thy only son, from me. Speaking from the Creator. But, and then he talked about the ram, quite in the thicket, the ram in the bush, we used to say. One, he passed that test of being committed to serve God, but at what expense did he pass the test? This is the last time we read, where Abraham had any divine communication. And divine communication didn't come from God like in other times. Divine communication this time, when we just left off and he communed with the Creator, sort of directly, this time it's only an angel calling out from heaven. Can an angel move faster than the speed of light? I'll listen to a comedy, but which makes a lot of sense. But Eddie Griffin one time, but which is really a true thing, a true statement in that sense. That if light supposed to be the fastest thing that we know of, they say 186,000 miles per second, then you got a black hole. And the black hole itself, it says light can't get out, in that black hole. And yet, if light is so fast, it can't be as fast as that black hole. And yet in Genesis, God's, called it, and they said, and let the light come from the darkness. So what's up with that? When they say a black hole where light cannot escape is there. And the Creator said, let the light come from the darkness. So these are some things to consider, the power and the creation of the Creator, the power of the Creator. After that, in the last part, it talks about, and it came to pass after these things that was told Abraham, saying, behold, Milcah, she also had borne children unto that brother Nahor. Uz his firstborn, and Boaz his brother, and Kemuel the father of Amram, and Keseb, and Hazo, and Pildash, and Jeplah, and Bethuel. And Bethuel begot Rebekah. These 8 did Milcah bore unto Nahor, Abraham's brother. And his concubine, whose name was Reumah, she also bore Tibah, and Gaham, and Takash, and Maacah. All right, so it reads already that that somebody told him, hey, and you say, well, you wonder why is they told this at this time after he almost getting ready to slay his only son, and why is his brother so productive when it comes to children? So we got to ask all these questions as we go further into it. His brother's so productive when he talks about these children, and yet who the one brought that news to Abraham? Being he didn't go back over to Ur the Chaldees to get this information. And why come now, at this time, after he almost, him and Isaac separated from this particular point in time as well. But, but you can find that when you go through the scripture and do some detective work. And so it leads into Sarah. And the life of Sarah was 107 and 20 years. These were the years of the life of Sarah. I could just say she was 127 years old. Why is that? She's the only woman in the scriptures that's actually given an age of death. We don't know her birth date. We don't know what date she actually died. But she's 127. Abraham was 137 at this time. If we think of any chronological order, Isaac's 37 years old when Abraham getting ready to, slay him. If we think of a chronological order. All right. And then, so now, what we find here, and I'm just going to read the opening because I'm not just going to speak beyond that. It says, and she died in Kiriath Arba, the same as Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. All right. And in the Hebrew, it means to eulogize. He let's prepare to talk about it, you eulogize her, and then mourn. Usually you mourn and then you talk in most funerals. But he mourned first, and then he'd talk about some of the things because he had so much good things in his life that with her and when he just experienced. And while she died this time, there's a lot of midrash on there and stuff like that, but I'm not focused on that. And it said, and in 30th verse, and Abraham rose up from before his dead and spoke unto the children of Het, saying, I am a stranger and a sojourner with you. Give me a possession for a burying place with you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. We never read where anybody was buried before. So this is the first time you're going to actually find out that burial is what we do. Before that, we didn't read where Noah would be buried. We didn't read about Shem being buried. We don't read about Adam being buried. Nobody before that. This is the first time you read about what you do with a dead human being. So now, is that understood? That's how you do it with your dead? Or is this novel? It can't be novel because the people of the land understood that this is a normal thing. The people of the land understood that they had their own burial spots. So it's not nothing novel that other people didn't do of antiquity, but this is the first time you read about how we should dispose of our dead properly. So that makes a big difference, because it wouldn't make no sense to talk about burying the dead and say, what's that? We don't do that. Let's let them go there and rot, and whatever the case is. And amongst those that deal with Zoroastrianism, in the early days of Zoroastrianism, which is the religion of the ancient Persians, was that instead of burying their dead, they put them in this little opening, in a closure, it's like well, they bring them in. It's like a walled around, but it's a top open and everything like that. And it's entrances to come in where their body is fed to, the vultures and any other, carrion. I mean, any animals that eat their dead. That's how they dispose of their dead amongst the Zoroastrian religion. All right, so this that's centuries later that they talk about doing that, but it's probably didn't just start with them, but they was pretty much originally recorded to do that I know of. I could be wrong in that area, but anyway, we find this here out. So now he's speaking in the hearings of all all them, and then in the fifth verse it says, "And the children had answered Abraham, saying unto him, Hear us, my Lord, thou art a mighty prince amongst us. In the choice of our sepulchres, bury thy dead. None of us shall withhold from thee his sepulchre, but thou mayest bury thy dead." And then we know about the big deal that went on down there. That Abraham haggled back and forth. He asked for the cave. Ephron was in the midst of them. They wind up telling him, "Look here, I gave you a cave for a burying place." He said, "Well, I need to bring this out." 9th verse. I said, "That he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which he have in the end, which is in the end of his field. For the full price, let him give it to me in the midst of you for a possession of a burying place." Now Ephron was sitting in the midst of the children of Het, and Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the hearing of the children of Het. So we know he brought the cave from the Hittites. Even of all that went in at the gate of the city, saying, "Nay, my Lord, hear me. The field I give thee, and the cave that is therein I give thee. In the presence of the sons of my people, I give, it thee. Bury thy dead." Abraham didn't want him to give him anything. He didn't take anything from Sodom and Gomorrah. So he didn't want them to give him anything. Now the land's going to be promised to Abraham. He didn't say, "Well, I really got deeds to it," but I'm not going to, I could elaborate a lot more on this particular portion, but not for the sake of time. But one of the things I like to bring out, an interesting point, is that the field was never the question of what he want. He want the cave, not the field. Ephron brought in the issues of the field. Abraham said, the cave is at the end of the field. So that little corner spot that you have, that's what I need to bury my dead in, that particular corner spot. So I'm not talking about prime area in your field. I'm talking about something that's at the very edge, which most people would leave. We tend to leave the corners of our field. But, they haggled and they wanted to buy it for 400 shekels. All right, so we read about that. So, and when we read about that in the 400 shekels that he spent, which is an exorbitant amount, very exorbitant, expensive amount, but he made it sure and brought it. Now, the questions I'd like to leave with before I can move into the next portion, before I go into the Proverbs, is that why is it now that Abraham decided to buy something? He was wealthy already when he left Egypt. Gold, silver, cattle. He could have brought something, years ago. Before Ishmael was born, he could have brought and said, "Look, I want to get this real estate right here." Why at this time? Well, one thing for sure, people, might live here and they move on. Somebody else might live there and move on. But you're dead. When you give them that plot, when you put somebody in this plot, the dead is not going to move on. They're going to stay in that same locale. And most people in antiquity recognize those spots to be sacred. So they recognize those spots to be very sacred. So, since the dead is not going to be in no same locale, that makes it, Mother Sarah is the first person to really have solid stakes in the land of Israel, the matriarch. She has solid stakes in the land of Israel because she's the first to have a resting spot before Abraham and for anybody else of our patriarchs and matriarchs. She had a permanent resting spot that was recognized that belongs to them. You know, that's the difference. The only other patriarch we read buying a parcel of land was Jacob. And then you read much later on that he had to take, you know, or he gave Joseph a parcel of land that he had to take with a sword. So you wonder, you know, from the location and what went to Joseph and went to tribe of Ephraim was Shechem, that particular territory. But that's another story. And I'm just going to speed on about this here. He went to send get a wife for Isaac. And then that's what I'm going to finish on with the wife of Isaac. All right. And so he sent his servant, this unnamed servant. And I'm just going to speak on it roughly in the 24th chapter. But it says, Abraham was old, well stricken in age. And the Lord blessed Abraham in all things. And part of the Patriarchal Hamazon, you got, you know, Hakol for Abraham. I mean, you know, matter of fact, no, let me see. No, you know, Bakol, let me get it. Bakol, Mikol, and Kol, you know. So Abraham blessed, you know, in all things. And Isaac blessed from certain things. And Jacob just blessed. All right. So what is all things? There's a lot of controversy about the word Bakol that he used here, Abraham. You know, but he's up in age. He's the first guy that's referred to as being, and it says stricken in age, but he used the word Zakwain. You know, Zakwain itself, first time that term is used for Abraham. You know, I mean, there's a lot of, you know, discussions about that, why that term is. And it's a term that doesn't mean that you could become old and decrepit. So it's a lot of story behind it, but he's the first one that's referred to that. And when he go get a wife for Isaac, if Isaac gets married at 40, Abraham's 140. So if he's 140, you know, and he dies at 175, all right, so that means he got 35 years from the time Isaac getting married until he actually died. So that means right then and there that you know, he had a lot of years left, you know, a lot of years left. But anyway, but that's something to talk about later on. But it says he made a servant, you know, the unnamed servant went, you know, he sent his unnamed servant to go and get a wife for Isaac, made a swear by it down. He take a wife from under his people. He didn't want his son to marry none of the people of the land, and he wanted to made a swear not to bring his son back over that way, across the way he came from. So Isaac's the only one that never went back to his father's homeland. Jacob did, but Isaac never did. So when we look at that like that, and you say why Isaac was never allowed to go, that's another story to be discussed. But what is interesting here is that rabbinically they gave the name of the servant. The servant is not named to this whole portion. And you know, one of my things is that I say, well, since the name of this servant is not given, then and then the name rabbinically and logically deduction, which is reasonable, but it don't have to be 100% true, but logical, could be a factual, you know, thing. Logical facts could point to that, but truth and facts are not always synonymous. Then they would say it had to be Eliezer of Damascus. And one of the reasons I tend to support that view, though I can't prove it in the actual text, because the text leave it anonymous, because his servant is not the focus. The focus is the woman, the the mission and the movement. And so that's not the focus. And what is focused on there and brought out, which I'm gonna just bring out and highlight right quick, is that the servant himself, though he's not named in this particular portion, he invokes the name of the YAH WAH. You know, the first one to say, what we would say today commonly is Baruch Hashem. You know what I mean? But it, said bless, Baruch, and Yohe Wahe. So he would say it like that. And so when people say the name of the Yohe Wahe wasn't known by Abraham, Moses speaking from his perspective, it being known by a particular name and being called a particular name is different, because it wasn't that they didn't know of it. It's just that we call them, you call them something else. Everybody have nicknames. Most people have nicknames, especially from around my circles. All right. So, and also it made sense to send this individual because he was talked about before Ishmael was born. And who would be better to send back to the land of your nativity except somebody else that actually came from that spot, which was Eliezer of Damascus. He's from that neighborhood. So he know where to go and start looking because he's actually from that particular region himself. All right. So, but that's, like I said, we don't have no proof who it is, but his name is not important. But he knew what name to pray under. And he prayed to his master God, said the God of his master. He didn't even say this was his God, the God of his master. And before he finished speaking up, then Rivka shows up. And we know the story changes a little bit in between that time and everything. And we know that not only the story changes up at that particular time, that we find that this when he met the family of Rivka, that his story changes slightly from what is stated in the beginning of his encounter and later on, when he talked to the family as a whole. So I'm not going to go through the story because it's one of the longest stories in there about this unnamed servant, about his mission. So what we find here in this particular portion is that this unnamed servant in this mission, his mission was the most important thing. Now, what I find interesting within the story is that when you find that the family, Laban and them, have said that this is of the Lord, we can't deny it. When he asked for her to come back, with him, be a wife for, his master Isaac, that we find out that this is of the Lord. But what's interesting, after they sat down and everything, and they're going to say, well, let the girl, the damsel abide for a year or at least 10 months. So now if you agreed to let her go, then why change the story to a year or 10 months? And then, because you said it's of the Lord, you can't stop it. It's meant to be. And then after that, why ask the damsel herself? After this of the Lord, you agree, you're the ones that's doing the negotiation, and then the Eastern custom. And the servant said, no, I can't hang for, a year, 10 months. And he said, well, I'm going to ask the damsel. And she agreed to go. So what's that all about? I don't have time to really go into it now because I spoke longer than I meant to speak on without going to the Proverbs. So I'm just going to read, go straight to Proverbs. I'm pretty much going to read mostly through it because it's pretty long. Hopefully, forgive me again. I'm going to try to do better next. Hopefully, I'll be able to elaborate more on the Proverbs. But there was so much stuff in those particular two sidros. I wanted to bring that out. And then, but we read that Isaac himself, when they brought the damsel to him, and he was, at a particular location, and it was at this particular location that he winds up, and it's one of the greatest marriages you could think about, a relationship or a reunion, is that we have a lot of things. You talk about the prayers, normally you have like 3 different prayer systems. You have a Shakari prayer, a Menka prayer, and a Madri prayer. And they allude to the patriarchs where Abraham got up early in the morning to get ready to try to offer up Isaac. Isaac's out there, at noonday in the afternoon and the evening tide, before Madri, and Yaakov get his revelation with the Shalom, the lattice at night. So those where you get the 3 prayers from. What's interesting is that the reunion is that it said he took her to wife and he loved her. Normally, we love our women, our female spouse. We love them first, and then say, I love her enough, I'm going to marry her. But with Isaac, it was, I'm going to take her to wife, but then love came later. So a lot of times our love started off, and it's hard to keep it going, but you're still married. Whereas you could be married, and your love start to build up and build up and build up. That makes a great union. And he had the best union out of all the 3 patriarchs, in spite of the things that went down. All right, so Proverbs 4th chapter, and I advise everybody to go by over because there's a lot of stuff I didn't touch on that was really interesting. I'm trying to go through a little information and this here to Proverbs 4th and 5th. So if you got it, Chief, you can go ahead.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Okay.
We're going to the book of Proverbs chapter 4. And it reads, give me 1 second. Proverbs 4 reads, Hear ye children, the instruction of a father, and attend to know now understanding. For I give you good doctrine, forsake ye not my teaching. For I was a son unto my father, tender and holy one in the sight of my mother. He taught me and said unto me, Let thy heart hold fast my words, keep my commandments, and live. Get wisdom.
Before you get there. Mm-hmm. All right. Solomon's talking. He said, look, some of us don't like to hear our parents give instructions and doctrines. He said, man, I mean, he browbeating me. He laying that tongue lashing on me about certain things. Solomon said, look, I wasn't no tough guy. I wasn't all that hard. But I seen that my father is talking to me out of love. I'm not no real, I'm not like Absalom, a warrior. Like, I don't know. They had 50 guys running before him, and top generals recognized he got some toughness about him. He said, I'm not cut like that. But I wasn't too timid to listen to my father's instruction and learn and see that it was given to me out of love, and it was necessary for me to be better. And what it says in the 5th verse?
Verse 5, it reads, Get wisdom, get understanding, forget not, neither decline from the words of my mouth.
All right, that's important to know. This is what he learned from King David. He telling you and giving a testimony, I knew what to ask for when I was asked, what do I desire? Because my father gave me some education. And that's what the difference. Education is imparting knowledge. We used to say education is liberation, So it's imparting knowledge. When you impart knowledge to some individual, they don't have to depend on you to make certain intelligent choices. That's what we learned from there. You could go on through. I won't interrupt you too much now.
Verse 6 reads, Forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee. Love her, and she shall keep thee. The beginning of wisdom is get wisdom. Yea, with all thy getting, get understanding. Extol her, and she will exalt thee. She will bring thee to honor when thou doest embrace her.
Keep on.
She will give to thy head a chaplet of grace, a crown of glory will she bestow on thee. Hear, O my son, and receive my sayings, and the years of thy life shall be many. I have taught thee in the way of wisdom. I have led thee in paths of uprightness. When thou goest, thy steps shall not be straitened, and if thou runnest, thou shalt not stumble. Take fast hold of instruction. Let her not go. Keep her, for she is thy life.
All right there. So in other words, you got to be able to increase what you're learning. You just can't stay stuck on what we used to say, get stuck on stupid. You know what I mean? You say, I know all I need to know. I don't need to know anything else. Yeah, I heard that from many people coming up. I know all I need to know. I don't need to know anything else. I don't need to learn anything else. I know enough right now. I heard that from, from guys that consider themselves wise, coming up. And you find out that it was otherwise. All right, so pick it up in the 14th verse.
Verse 14 reads, Enter not into the path of the wicked, walk not in the way of evil men. Avoid it, pass not by it, turn from it, and pass on. For they sleep not, except they have done evil, and their sleep is taken away unless they cause some to fall.
And that's some people say, look here, what could I mess with next? Some people just say, look, I gotta do wrong for somebody to notice me. That was a song by the Whispers. Gotta do wrong for somebody to notice me. So that's one of them songs they had, what I mean? That, to be noticed. So some people can't sleep unless I gotta cause somebody some drama before I can rest. Ain't that something? That's strange. But it exists because the writer wouldn't say this if he didn't know people like that. Go ahead, continue.
Verse 17 reads, for they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. But the path of the righteous is as the light of dawn that shineth more and more unto the perfect day. The way of the wicked is as darkness. They know not at what they stumble.
Okay, that means they can't see when they're falling down. But let's go to the 20th verse and keep going.
Verse 20 reads, my son, attend to my words, incline thine ear unto my sayings. Let them not depart from thine eyes, keep them in the midst of thy heart. For they are life unto those that find them, and health to all their flesh. Above all that thou guardest, keep thy heart, for out of it are the issues of life. Put away from thee a froward mouth, and perverse lips put forth from thee. Let thine eyes look right on, and let thine eyelids look straight before thee. Make plain the path of thy feet, and let all thy ways be established. Turn not to the right hand nor to the left. Remove thy foot from evil. Hallelujah.
Okay. All right. That's Proverbs 4. So much stuff in there. But you notice he started up and come back and talk about my son. You know what I mean? He said, look, I want you to let you know I'm like a father really concerned about your future. I can't be with you all the time. I can't hold your hand. I can't see the dangers if I let you go out ahead. And I'm so far back. I can't run as fast to catch up and keep you from falling. So I can't catch you like that. So hopefully my instructions will carry you further than I could carry you. And that's what it's about right now. This is the father speaking to his son. But let's go into the 5th chapter.
Chapter 5 reads, chapter 5, verse 1. My son, attend unto my wisdom and incline thine ear to my understanding.
In other words, to try to understand and see what I see. Sometimes you wish your kids could understand when you get ready to tell them something and give them some insight. And most teachers realize that too. When we get up and try to expound on certain parts of the verses, pasukim, verses in scriptures, we really want the individual that we're talking to, or individuals as a teacher, to see exactly what I see and see if you could build upon it. So that's why we be up there elaborating, because you want to say, I see this. I want you to see this and see if you can see anything else beyond what I'm showing you. That's what this chapter come with. Go continue.
Verse 2 reads, that thou mayest preserve discretion, and that thy lips may keep knowledge. For the lips of a strange woman drop honey, and her mouth is smoother than oil.
In other words, to say, now you're going to be attacked from a different area now, from the opposite sex. Now you could use metaphorically, but basically, he's telling you there's most things that keep a man down right away. But we're in the 4th verse. Keep going.
Verse 4 reads, but her end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death. Her steps take hold on the netherworld. Lest she should walk the even path of life, her ways wander, but she knoweth it not.
I understand. So even though, she should walk the even paths of life, that means nothing making her stumble. That's what she want to do. All right. Pick it up from 7.
Verse 7 reads, now therefore, children, hearken unto me, and depart not from the words of my mouth. Remove thy way far from her, and come not nigh the door of her house. Lest thou give thy vigor unto others, and thy years unto the cruel.
Hold right there. No words. All right, before we get to the 10th verse, they had 2 guys. They talk about supposed to be super lovers. Don Juan and Casanova. Now, they're supposed to be the super level of the Renaissance era and stuff like that there. Both of them had the same amount of what they call victories with women. But look how both their lives end. Though Casanova, a lot of women hated him, and when it was over with, a lot of people still loved Don Juan when he had broken relationships. But their lives at the end shared the same dried out faith. You know, I mean, that's what they did. But that's just some things to bring out. All right, continue.
Verse 10 reads, "Let strangers be filled with thy strength, and thy labors be in the house of an alien. And thou moan when thine end cometh, when thy flesh and thy body are consumed. And say, how have I hated instruction, and my heart despised reproof? Neither have I hearkened to the voice of my teachers, nor inclined mine ear to them that instructed me. I was well nigh in all evil in the midst of the congregation and assembly."
Hold it. The 14th verse, I really, the wording, it really, make you laugh, but it's a serious thing. All right. Because, you already started come to terms with it. And you say, I was well nigh in all evil in the midst of the congregation and assembly. In other words, right then and there, I'm deep in it. But yeah, I don't need to be the one that's deep in it. I'm surrounded with all this kind of stuff. Because, and the writer Solomon said, look, if you don't look at me as a father, look at me as a teacher, an elder, a guy. I mean, sometimes people don't want to listen to their pops, but they might listen to an uncle, a cousin, something like that. There, an elder. So that's what he's saying here. 15th verse, pick it up.
Verse 15 reads, "Drink waters out of thine own cistern, and running waters out of thine own well. Let thy springs be dispersed abroad, and courses of water in the streets. Let them be only thine own, and not strangers with thee. Let thy fountain be blessed, and have joy of the wife of thy youth. A lovely hind and a graceful doe. Let her breast satisfy thee at all times. With her love be thou ravished always."
All right there. Before we get, I'm going to do the 20th verse before I go in.
Verse 20. "Why then wilt thou, my son, be ravished with a strange woman, and embrace the bosom of an alien?"
All right, now, before we go to the last portion, what it is, you wonder how people been married to the same woman, 40, 50 years and stuff like that. And you say, well, where she is now, he didn't meet her like that. And the way he is now, she didn't meet him like that. So you see the wedding day pictures and everything, say, wow, I used to look like that way back then. Wow, I could see why so-and-so was strung out on you. And same thing, vice versa. I can see why she was strung out on you way back then, man. You know what I mean? You had ripples on the ripples. You know what I mean? You had a six-pack that was stacked with a washboard on the side. So, you say, well, but you still had that same love, and you say you still find them attractive because you're going to still see that person that you fell in love with. She's going to see that person who's fell in love. Not that she can't see that, hey, I used to be able to, run a 100-yard dash, 11 point something seconds and all that kind of stuff. Say, no, them days over. Hopefully I can make the yards just in a walk, in a stride. But she going to walk with you. So that's what it's saying, growing, aging together and loving and righteousness. In that sense, you appreciate it more because you can just say, look, I see her inner beauty so much that, I could be myself. Because you know how it is, you say, well, look, I ain't shaped like I used to be, this and the other. And so now, but do she really love me? And, and do she really have that same affection? I was looking on just a sidebar just a little bit. I was looking on TikTok, this old couple fussing, carrying on, fussing. So I don't know how old it was, but they both was up there in age. And, it said, woman, you ain't going to leave me alone. The man told his wife. He said, I wish I could leave you alone, but you can't leave me alone. Stuff like that. He said, I ain't got no choice, and nobody else that will have me. So I guess we stuck together to death do us part. So yeah, but one of the things that they still get along with one another, and they still want each other, even with the jokes and the talks and stuff like that there. That's a strong union. Sometimes we wonder how some of our grandparents way back in the days stayed together so long. You wonder that. And you say, that's the way grandma used to look? And look at you. What happened to you? He was like that? Wow. And they still be kissing and hugging and and if don't go to a party and they say, let us get on the floor and show you how it's done. And they got there to do their thing. That's a love. And that's one of the beautiful things. And when you see that, because you could imagine, I'm gonna give you an example. We just got through talking about, Abraham. Later on, we talking about Isaac and the wife. All right. If Sarah was abducted, and we think about any chronological time, and Sarah was abducted after Ishmael was born. Could have been before Isaac was born. We're not sure. By Abimelech in the chronological order. Then she's up there in age almost 90, 80-something years old, looking good. Still looking good. And then when you look at some of these pictures, this the new 70s, this the new 80s. And we ain't talking about the years of 1980 and 1970. We're talking about their age of 70 and 80. And you say, wow, it's hard to tell you got this going on and stuff like that. So this is one of the beautiful things. This was telling you about. Don't be raptured to a strange woman or an alien woman. But let's read the 21st verse. Let's pick it up.
Verse 21 reads, for the ways of man are before the eyes of Yehovah, and he maketh even all his paths. His own iniquity shall ensnare the wicked, and he shall be holden with the cords of his sin. He shall die for lack of instruction, and in greatness of his folly he shall reel. Hallelujah.
And that's something. Hallelujah. So I put you guys something. I know I went kind of fast in that because I was trying to cover in. There's so much stuff in the last two sidros. So I hope you got something out of what I said. And any mistakes been my own. And just leave a thing in the comments about if you have a question or I failed to try to convey something accurately or clearly. So with that, I hope everybody have a good Shabbat, and I'm gonna say Shalom Aleichem and an early Shabbat Shalom, and enjoy the rest of your time.
I got a question.
Yes.
Right. This is something that always bugs me. I don't know if I ever asked you this question before. The term virgin, right? So now, when can a man be addressed as can a man ever be a virgin, and is used in that sense of a man being a virgin?
Well,
in the Hebrew, is that ever a term where a man is called a virgin?
No, they talk about it in a roundabout way. And a roundabout way is, like Abraham, the first, beginning of his strength. With Jacob, the beginning of his strength and stuff like that. We know Isaac being a unique individual, though a lot of people always try to think of like he had the servants, he messed around with the servants and everything like that. But, people didn't do that, pretty much the patriarchs that would make them extraordinary, and besides that, they didn't, because a lot of people think because they had so many servants that they had the servants girls before they really got hooked up with a person. Abraham, if he was living like that kind of lifestyle, he would have more kids, because you see after he got married, to Keturah later on, he had 6 children by her. So, and it was about relationships, but a virgin was basically the woman's integrity. That's why we hear the term Bethulah. And I don't know of any term they would say in reference to a man in that sense,
Just
we
that he
know,
had not known women or something like that, or maybe something of that
yeah,
extent.
yeah. Well, you only assume that pretty much in a lot of cases, because unless it states, like I said, the closer we get to stating that, it's with Yaakov, the beginning of his strength. So if you was even masturbated, in the past, we were Esau later on getting married at 40. So he followed a lot of pattern that his father Isaac did. So I don't know anything in reference to that. All I know is a woman's considered that, and it makes a difference because when Rebecca, she's referred to both as an Alma and a Bethula, and the Sidra of Kayasera. And I know a lot of people try to use that as that's okay with Isaiah. She's a virgin because she was a virgin. But when but being careful, when you look at it, said that the writer describes her as a beautiful woman, a virgin, and have not known man in any fashion or form. All right. So he used the word Bethula when he told a virgin there. When the servant that's unnamed addressed the family, he says Alma, because how I don't know she a virgin.
Right.
I don't know if she a virgin or not. I'm just here on a mission to get somebody from the family. He didn't give me the parameters about this and that and the other. I gave the parameters to God. I gave the character I want from God to God. Abraham never said what kind of character. He just said relative relationship. That's what he was interested in. All right. So, and and she's gonna be the mistress of the house. So you want to get a certain type of mistress.
Right. There was a question that someone posted to me, and I want to run it by you. It's located in Genesis 25, verse 7, and it's about verse 6, 25, verse 6.
25 verse 6. Let me just get there just to make
So
sure.
it was the whole question was about Abraham concubines, right?
Okay.
So this person was speaking to their friend. It was an elder she called, and they got into a little debate about this verse in Genesis 25, verse 6. And the friend was saying that the concubines were the woman of the sons that Abraham had with Keturah, and she was saying that no, the concubines are Abraham's concubines, which would be Hagar and Keturah at that time. So what do you think is the can you give her an explanation? Because I told her it was talking about Hagar and Keturah, right?
Yes,
That those were the
I would say that too. And I had to agree with you on that area there. The sons of the concubines.
Yeah.
Was
But
it's in the
let me just read it real quick so that people could.
Yeah, I got it in 6th chapter. I got it 25
Yeah,
6.
let me just read it real quick, and it reads right here. Genesis 25, verse 6. But unto the sons of the concubines that Abraham had, Abraham gave gifts, and she sent them away from Isaac his son, while he yet lived eastward unto the east country. Yes. So go ahead,
Okay.
All
right. Well, what I try, I like I said, I left a little stuff on Kaye Sarah on the areas there. When I mentioned about how he sent out Ishmael,
right?
All right, that he improved in the later relationship when he sent them away and gave them gifts, and he used the word menka, which is could be anything as well as some skills, spiritual knowledge as well, and that just like Jacob, the handmaids was referred to at one stage as concubines, and then another stage as wives, in that sense. And when we look at the story of Abraham, with the concubines and having them kids, we also read in the Chronicles centuries later with Dawi, when it's mentioned about the wives of Dawi, and then it says Michal, the wife. And you say, well, wow, Then you say all these the wives. How can you say Michal the wife? In that sense. So it depends on who they refer to as an actual wife. But we know that when he sent them away and stuff, and they sent them away from Isaac and stuff, not only he improved on how to get them away so they don't be distract them, because it'd be a whole lot of guys talking at one guy and that stuff. And Isaac wasn't cut like the rest of the guys, like Ishmael, the rest of them guys would be cut like that. So, it was something else I meant to bring in reference to the story about Abraham. He stayed in Kaya Sarah. That's what I meant to bring up. And the story of Kaya Sarah, though her life, it talks about her death, just like when Wayiki Yaakov, when we talk about and Jacob lived, it's going to focus on his death. And Kaya Sarah, she's not living, but yet it means life. The life of Sarah. So what is her real testimony is what she produced in life, in the life of Sarah. And you notice that Abraham's life, he dies in that same Sidra. And she's the first to have a Sidra named after her. You say, well, Abraham got a Sidra named after him. None of the patriarchs got a Sidra named after them.
Right.
But Sarah is the first person, male or female, to have a portion of a book named after her. And she's the first person to have claim to the land, solid claim, a homeland, a solid resting place. And it's to teach you sometimes that her life was so strong that you read very little information about Abraham other than the deal, sending for a wife, and having children send them away. Say, well, that's not exciting. I mean, we had to all this, stuff he was going through before. I mean, his life was pretty much over, even when he got another wife, and he got this wife after he had set up a wife from Isaac, so, and to secure the future. So sometimes they say, if the woman dies first, most of the times, then the household's not quite the same. If the man died first, then the household is, has still a lot of life, because it says Isaac was comforted when he married, hooked up with Rivkah for his mother. Well, you mean tell me him and his father wasn't on good terms? How good terms were they? Well, dad almost killed me. What kind of stories you gonna have at the end? Ishmael, what do you think about Pop, man? The way he sent my, I love him, but the way he sent me and my moms off, man, like that, I thought that was kind of cold. But we stayed in contact. That's why I'm here. Because we stayed in contact. We stayed in contact. That's why I'm here. But the way he sent my mom off, man, I don't know why he did it like that, but he didn't do it with the rest of them later on. So, I'm letting bygones be bygones. He said, you thought you had it rough. I go on a mission and come back, my mother's dead. I'm not even at the funeral. Man almost was trying to kill me. I don't know what he heard. His hand was in motion, all of a sudden it stopped. That's something to talk about at the funeral, because all the words come out of the funeral. Because they said Isaac and Ishmael buried Abraham. So the stories had to go. And like I said, it said he had no problem sending the woman away. It was a son. So that's
So
some of the things.
So I'm gonna stir it up a little bit because I know you have a take on this, and you didn't really bring it up. So, do you think that after Abraham came back from the from trying to from following God's word and when God told him to sacrifice Isaac, do you feel like there was a rift in the house, and was there some sort of separation?
It's obvious what goes on at the funeral. You only hear Abraham talking. That's number one. Negotiation. Two. And also where Isaac was located. He didn't call Isaac and say this was going on. And the woman came straight to Isaac where he was out there by himself, in the field. And they used the word lasuach, which would come from the word sikha, which is conversation. So that's why they say he instituted the afternoon prayer, because, most books translate as meditating, but he's talking. And usually when you're praying, you're talking to the Creator. You know what I mean? So that's, so, and what correlates with that is that after, he took the wife and he loved her and it was comforted for his mother. That means he had issues. You never read where Abraham had to be comforted beyond that. So they live in different neighborhoods. When you do the math, do the geological research, you find it in different neighborhoods.
Well, could it be that that Isaac at this point was just grown and he went out on his, he went out and explored on his own?
Well, when you read carefully, it's only Abraham coming back, not Isaac and him. They went up together. They didn't come back together. So I don't understand how, So, that's literal. Now, we could make a lot of speculations, but literally, they went up together and he came back.
So in other words, what you're saying is basically, all right, we went up, I laid on this wood. I was about ready to let my father sacrifice him, but on the way back, I was like, no, Jack, I'm out of here. Or we taking a different route, or we going different ways.
I need some time to myself to get over this here, because I don't know what you heard. I don't know what changed.
I didn't hear what you heard.
Yeah. You had this private conversation going on, but yet you tied me up. That's what the word akeda means. It means to be bound.
To be bound, right?
Yeah. So I couldn't move anyway, but I don't know what was the movement. I know you had the knife coming up. I know you had the torch coming up. And I'm carrying this wood, and I'm laying up in this wood, and then all of a sudden you're gonna tie me up on this wood. Because akeda means to be bound.
I see the fire, I see the wood, but I don't see no animal.
Yeah. And all of a sudden now, it looked like you getting ready to do some real, manslaughter type stuff. And I'm laying up here. I'm gonna throw this exposed. And I know how you move. I've seen you do it many times before, how you slay these animals. So all I can do is just freeze. And then all of a sudden you stop. And then the angel says, do not touch or harm. If you ain't touching, are you harming?
Right.
So why the redundance of touch and harm? So it wasn't no easy thing. Psychologically. That's the real side of family life.
Right. You're right. Because, at the end of the day, did Isaac have the same sort of communication with the Creator as Abraham or Jacob?
When did Isaac get the first revelation from God?
It was through his wife.
No. His wife never told him. The first revelation of God Isaac had was when the famine hit. And God said, don't go down to Egypt.
Right.
That's the first time we read where Isaac had any kind of interaction with the Creator.
Right. No, you're right. You're correct. Yeah. I was just thinking about, God, mostly even when in the birth of Jacob and Esau, that God communicated with his wife, with Rebecca, and told her basically there's two nations in your womb. But it's so much that we could build off that. So going back to the previous question, so today, what would be a concubine today? Because so many people have opinions. I know there is nothing today because of the way that we live. People can't see it, but what will be the closest thing to a concubine?
They can see it.
They can see it. They just don't accept it.
That's a whole nother story. But because if they couldn't see it, you couldn't explain it.
Right.
All right. So everything they could see it, whether you accept it or not, is a different story.
Right.
All right. And one of the things that we got to look at is that a concubine is basically another woman that belongs to you, in that sense. All right. She only becomes a concubine when you could deal with her, and she, but you don't look at it as a wife level, on that level of a wife. All right. If she's a handmaid, that's why Abraham said, "Behold, she's your handmaid. I didn't claim her basically as mine. as a concubine.
Got you. She's your handmaid. I never even thought about her. You know what I mean?
And that in that light, on that level.
Yeah. Got you. So that's why when we see, but then when we talk about, certain, but that's if the girl is bought into, if it's different circumstances that tell you about if a girl is bought, how you deal with her and opposed to
right, exactly.
And your house or someone.
Yeah. And she's bought.
Yeah.
You know, sold by a father. It's sold for the purpose of marriage.
She's already coming through in a
as a marriage. That's why she could demand rights.
Right.
Now you figure those rights belong to your natural wife. You know what I mean? But because of her situation, it's a demand there. So things, even if your performance got slack,
right,
and she can find that to be an issue.
Right. Wow.
You know?
That you don't even you don't even take that into consideration. You older, you taking a young damsel and it's not working quite the way it used to work before. She said, listen, this man ain't giving me one of the three. He giving me two. The other two, but this one, he lacking.
So that means that you really gotta have to meet. You gotta have the meeting of the minds.
Right. Yeah, she could get out. Never even considering that part. Wow. Yeah, it's good when, when we expound on Torah, when we build on it, you get so much more out of it because, I mean, my saying always been, we always look at these men as like being superhuman, but they were just men. They were individuals, and they went through the same things that we went through,
Exactly.
And we look at it that way, then we'll get so much more out of life. So thank you once again, Nasik, for your insight, for the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that the Most High God has bestowed upon you. And I'd like to thank you for all the effort that you put forward on this channel. And you have a cult following, so when we miss a week, people are always, though you have a following, boy. When you miss, they always on my case. So I know this is something that you definitely got to keep going. So
I'll do my best to try to share what I can with God, allow me to share.
Hallelujah. Shalom, Nasik. May the Most High God bless you.
All right.
Hallelujah.
Shalom. All right.
Let's get all his wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, his laws and commandments. The hot CHOKMAH BINAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the leaders. Yeah, knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, his laws and commandments. The hot CHOKMAH BINAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the leaders. Yeah.